Hello everyone, AmyR here with Prairie Paper and Ink, and for today's card, I am making a really easy interactive card. And I am using some of the new My Favorite Things April release. So to start off with, I want to create my card base, which is a gatefold card. And to create that, I have a piece of craft cardstock that is 5.5 by 8.5. And to make it easy, I just score at 2 1/8 inches on each end of this. That's going to create my basic gatefold card. Super simple, nothing too fancy here. So, and this is also what I like about this type of interactive card is it's easy. Not a whole lot of thought is required. So I've got my basic gatefold card here that, opens in the center. It's a standard A2 size, so it ends up being, 4.25 by 5.5. And then to actually start making this interactive, I have the Shutter Card Components Die-Namics, and it's only 2 dies. And this kind of funny triangular pointy die, I die cut twice from some purple cardstock. And when it die cuts, it also scores a little flap there on the end. So I just fold that over and I'm just reinforcing it with my bone folder just so that things, move and bend easier because I'm using heavyweight cardstock, of course, for everything. And then to adhere these, I am using 1/4 inch Scor-Tape. Really strong adhesive. This is one of the absolute best because 1, it's strong, and 2, it's just easy to tear so I don't have to fiddle so much. So you just apply Scor-Tape on each of these little flaps. And then once these are, once they have their adhesive on them, you can adhere them to the card. And it honestly doesn't matter where you place these. You can have it, closer to the top, closer to the bottom. It doesn't matter. So I did mine somewhat closer to the top, rather than in, the very center. And I just peel off the adhesive, I line it up with the score line there, and then I close that side of the gatefold. And then that one is lined up perfectly in place, super easy. For the second piece, I make sure it is completely even with the first there on the top and bottom. And then I line up that little flap again right inside the score line, hold it down, close that side of the gatefold card, and then that's adhered into place. This can't get any easier. It's once you see it done, it's oh, okay. So there we go. That most of this is done. So once I have that, I now need, you can put an image, underneath it, whatever you want to do. I, of course, wanted to use the new Picture Perfect stamp set. And there's this little hamster image that's just, this set is just adorable. All these little animals basically taking selfies just kills me. I think it's just the cutest thing ever. This set is huge, by the way. It is not the standard MFT size. They went big with the stamp set because there's so many images. So I have the little hamster images, and I just stamped a piece of white cardstock with some gray ink in those images. I'll get to that one in a minute. But for the main part of the image, I'm going to stamp this onto some Neenah Classic Crest 80-pound cardstock with MFT's Extreme Black ink. So I'm going to stamp it a couple times to get a good crisp image. And then I'm going to color this one in with Copic Markers. So I kept the coloring really, really simple and just used some kind of orangey brown shades for the hamster's little faces there, working just darkest to lightest. Again, keeping her simple. Don't have to do too much, but they definitely need some color because that's kind of going to be the main focus of this card. So I started with that portion, and then their bodies I kept really simple, and I just used YR30. Just a really, really pale sort of cream color, just to give it that little bit of something, but nothing too crazy. And then I used my kind of go-to, ear, nose, cheek combo, which is R22 and R20 for their ears and their little noses and their little hands and feet. So once I got that done, that little, nut he's holding, I did my go-to brown combo, E27, E25, E23. And then I took BG10 and BG quadruple 0 just to add a little bit of color, just so it's not completely stark white, but again, kept it just simple. I just went around everything with the BG10 and then blended it a little bit with the BG quadruple 0, but a lot of this you're not even going to see, so it's kind of up to personal preference whether you want to add anything, but I just wanted a little something in there. Plus it's going to tie in with the cardstock I use later. So did that coloring, and then that gray piece the piece that I had stamped with the gray, I just wanted to add a little bit of definition to it. I'm not going to color this in or anything, but I just wanted to add something around the edges. So I just took my C2 and then C00 just to give it a little something. You could also just sponge gray ink if you wanted to, but I just took a couple seconds and just quickly colored that just to give it that little extra something. So for the main image, I just trimmed it out with scissors, nothing fancy. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to line this up on the inside of the card there and just kind of get it positioned how I want it to look when you're like opening and closing the card. And then I'm just going to hold that in place, and then I'm going to trace it out with a pencil so I can adhere it onto the inside of the card exactly how I had it placed. So like I said, you could use any image for this, or you could have like a sentiment that gets revealed when you open the card. I just think these characters are so cute that it's like, I just love it. And when you see it at the end, like when you open the card, it's like, love. So adhered that into place just with my little Xyron tape runner. So now you can already see it like starting to come together. So to actually finish off this inside, interactive deal, I have a piece of white cardstock that is 6 inches long, and I just cut it slightly wider than the circle wafer die. And I scored it at the top and bottom 1/4 inch in. And then I'm going to just reinforce those score lines again with my bone folder, so that makes it fit on the inside of the card. And then this step's optional. I grabbed a piece of pattern paper to add to this as well, just to give it, again, just to bring out a little bit of color, but not necessary. So now to know where to die cut my circle, I'm going to line this up, just center it right inside the card, right underneath those flaps, and then hold everything down. And I'm just using a pencil to mark those 4 corners of the square that's created. That way I know where I can use the circle die from the Shutter card Die-Namics. I'm also going to line up that pattern paper I'm using. I'm going to line up the circle over those little pencil marks and then die cut those in one pass. So everything is die cut, super simple. But before I adhere this, I want to stamp a sentiment onto this piece. So I'm just going to line it up in my travel platform again. And I'm going to stamp a sentiment from the Picture Perfect stamp set using that same extreme black ink. So I'm going to stamp that a couple times, get it good and crisp. Once that's stamped, now I can start adhering this and get this on the inside and finish off this interactive component. So I'm going to apply a bunch of adhesive to the back of this, just on the inside of the score lines of those flaps. And then I can adhere that to the pattern paper. And this is pattern paper from the Tiny Hearts Pastels 6x6 pack. And I actually ended up using my paper trimmer, and I literally trimmed off like a sliver of the pattern paper just because it was just slightly too wide on that one side. So trim that down. And then on those little flaps, I'm using 1/8 inch Scor-Tape this time, just because it's easier because they're little tiny narrow flaps. So I'm going to peel off just one side of that Scor-Tape just along the bottom. I'm going to open up that gatefold card, lay it flat, and then I'm going to center this piece right in the center of the inside of the card. So I start with the bottom. Once I get that adhered into place, then all I have to do is peel off the adhesive from that top flap, press it down, and it's done. Like, easiest interactive card ever. As soon as it's adhered, that's all there is to it. So because, of course, this is a gatefold card, it doesn't just sit closed. You need something. You could tie it with ribbon or some string or whatever, just something to keep it closed. So I decided just to make a little sleeve that can, slide up and down to open this card. So I just used more pattern paper. This is one of the heart papers from the Tiny Hearts Brights 6x6 pack. And I didn't measure it. I just cut down 2 pieces that were I think they're like 2.5 inches wide, or 2.5 inches tall, and then like 6 inches wide, because that's 6x6 pattern paper. And I just folded it over with my hands to the first piece to cover the card. And then the second piece, I'm just adhering the little flaps to that piece and trimming it down. So there's no real measurements. It's just whatever works, because it depends on, how much you have inside the card too. So really, really simple. I just adhered those little flaps together with more Scor-Tape, because I wanted the sleeve to be really secure so that, nothing's falling apart or anything like that, since it's going to be, moved up and down and taken on and off the card. So got it all adhered, and then made sure that it actually does fit on the card, just like so. So that's going to keep the card closed. I didn't want to just leave that plain though. So I wanted a little bit of decoration for it. So I'm using the Polaroid shaker frame Die-Namics. That's what die cut the square that I stamped the little gray outline onto. So I'm just going to adhere that back into the little Polaroid frame. And I'm just using washi tape because you're not going to see it. So just put some washi tape on the back of this just to get that adhered into place. And that was why I had used those gray Copic markers, so that it's not just white on white. You can see like the actual frame, and then the inner portion has a little something going on. Nothing too crazy. And then I also die cut more of that lighter blue heart pattern paper with that same Polaroid shaker frame, just to give it a little extra something. And then same thing, I'm just going to adhere them together with washi tape because it's easy. So used washi tape for that, and then I'm actually going to adhere that to the little sleeve with more of the Scor-Tape, just so again it's good and adhered and it's not going to come off. And then off camera, I had die cut the smile sentiment. That's from the Double the Smiles Die-Namics. This came out forever ago. I'll have links as always to everything. But I had die cut that 3 times and then stacked them together to give it that dimension. And then I also die cut some hearts with the Lots of Hearts Die-Namics, just to give it a little extra something, a little more color, a little more, flair, but nothing too crazy because I want to keep the outside fairly simple. So I adhered the hearts, and then I'm going to adhere the die cut smile into place with just some multi-medium matte adhesive. So get everything adhered, and I'd use the multi-medium matte to stack the layers of that die cut adhesive or die cut sentiment together as well. So get that all adhered into place, and that actually literally finishes off the card. I wanted the outside to be cute, not too colorful because the inside is, the pièce de résistance. So I've got my little gatefold card and a little sleeve. So then you just pull the sleeve off, you open the card, and the shutter card components reveal the little critters peeking out. Like, isn't that the cutest thing ever? And so simple, so fun. So that's my video for today. As always, there will be a link below the video to my blog post. There'll be a supply list with links to all the supplies used. You can check that out below if you are interested. Thank you guys so much for watching, for subscribing, for thumbs upping and commenting on my videos. I really appreciate it. And I will see you all very soon in the next one. Bye.